I guess we're ready. It's 30 seconds before, but looks like everybody's anxious to get started. So I want to welcome everyone to the Board of Supervisors meeting on December 3rd, 2013. Can we all rise for the pledge led by Supervisor De La Cruz? Thank you, Supervisor De La Cruz, for leading us in that pledge. Can I have a motion for a certificate of posting?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none. Supervisor Rivas is unable to attend our meeting today. He's at a conference down in Southern California, so we'll miss his presence. This morning we have a few presentations. And the first one is to be presented by Supervisor Barrios, proclaiming the December 6, 2013 as the 100th anniversary of the Hollister Women's Club. Supervisor?
Thank you. I would like to make a motion at this time to approve the proclamations and the presentation of certificates.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none. I guess you do. Station.
Do we have a representative from the Women's Club or representatives? Please come up. Hi. How are you this morning? Good to see you. Thank you. Yes. Oh, come right here. Just join the crowd. How are you, Joan? Yes. Okay, this is a proclamation honoring the 100th anniversary of the Women's Club of Hollister. Whereas a group of women, many of whom could remember as children, the founding of a new county in 1874 called San Benito, and the incorporation of the community of Hollister itself in 1868. And whereas this group of women in 1913 lived in Agrarian County with most of its total residents of 8,326 living outside of the incorporated areas of Hollister and San Juan Bautista. And whereas this group of women who were profoundly active with their Victorian world of 1913 embraced the ideals of the Women's Club movement in the United States, established in 1890, and founded the Women's Club of Hollister on Saturday, December 6, 1913. So my congratulations. You do wonderful things for the community. I know that I've had the pleasure of attending many of them, as well as some of our other board members. So now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the San Benito County Board of Supervisors wish to honor and congratulate the Women's Club of Hollister on the occasion of its 100th anniversary.
Thank you.
Here's your proclamation, and you may have the mic for a little bit.
Well, I just want to thank all of you for the proclamation. Also want to thank the residents of San Benito County for your continued support for this past 100 years. We started out planting trees on Main Street, setting up the library, moving the Sullivan House, and more recently donating to Girls Inc., which is going to be a major factor in this county, hopefully, and also backpacks that we've taken over from leadership. But thank you all for your support, and we appreciate everything that you do. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll move on to our next presentations, which is certificates of appreciation to a few county employees that are retiring at the end of the year here. And the first one is to be presented by Supervisor De La Cruz to Ms. Fonherquist, a welfare fraud investigator. Supervisor De La Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to call it by her first name because I kind of know her on a personal basis, and I've known her a long time. And
she wasn't investigating you, was she?
No, no.
Oh,
Anthony, only Anthony.
Thank you for your kind words, Mr. Chair.
I got to bring you a box of apples.
Make sure they're red at this time. But anyway, seriously, folks, when I first got elected to the Board of Supervisors, even when I was on the San Benito Health Foundation, Victoria was the one who always had a smiling face all the time out in the community. And yet, I never knew what her job was until I got on the Board of Supervisors. And the moment I knew that she was into the welfare aspect, I kind of stayed away from her as much as I could. I will meet her at the store, and she'll wave at me and hug me and everything, and I'll be running away from her. And then later on in life, I realized that actually she was a good person. She was a real good person. And we're going to miss you. Your 23.5 years of service to the community, especially to those individuals that really need the assistance and the help. We're going to miss you. And on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, we'd like to give you the certificate of appreciation for your hard work and dedication in this community. You are our asset to our community, you and the entire employees. And for that, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
That's yours.
I'm supposed to give it back. Yeah, I'm supposed to give it back.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank you.
yes.
Are you going to investigate that?
We'll make sure that each of our employees get their certificates back. Supervisor Rivas needs to sign all three of them, and
Okay, got it.
so we'll get his signature on it and return it right back to everybody who's supposed to have it. I have the next one, who is Cheryl Tyler, who's an assistant assessor, and we certainly hate to see her leave us, but we understand. And I'll present that. Cheryl, on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, we want to congratulate you for your retirement and hope you have many years of fun and relaxation, probably on the beaches of Hawaii and elsewhere. And we want to present this in appreciation for 14 and a half years of dedicated service in the assessor's office for San Benito County. And I know Tom Savage, our assessor, wants to come up and say a few words after we're done presenting this to you. And I know from my involvement having property in San Benito County, I probably go to the office once a year myself and ask questions. And what makes that office unique is the team that Tom and you have fostered in the office, that the public is well served. I hear maybe not any complaints about how things are done down there, which is really tough because you're assessing taxes and it's money to people and our constituents, and you guys have done a tremendous job under very difficult circumstances, not having, a full staff that we'd like to see in the office. And you guys have done a tremendous job, and we certainly appreciate it as a Board of Supervisors. And so on behalf of the entire board, I want to present this certificate, which we have to take back again because Robert needs to sign this. But congratulations, Cheryl.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You want to say a few words?
Yeah, I do.
It's been wonderful working for the County of San Benito, for the different Board of Supervisors, for the 2 assessors, elected officials that I have worked for. We've always strived to help everyone. It doesn't matter what your income is. It doesn't matter what kind of property you own. When you own property, it is generally the biggest investment in your life that you will ever make. It's important to everyone. And whenever anybody's come into the office, we've always tried to make that person be the person of the moment and help them and, empathize with them when there's problems. And I learned the things. I was 8.5 years at Monterey County in the assessor's office. I knew Tom when I was working there. You could not have a better person representing this county.
His integrity is beyond reproof. And I would never have worked for anybody that was less. So my extreme best to everybody in the county. The office, we have trained people, we've brought people up. They're going to be wonderful addition in the management later on to the county. So thank you, everyone.
At this time, I'll invite our county assessor, Tom Savage, to say a few words about Ms. Tyler. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Anthony. I'm kind of dreading this day. I've been trying to have Cheryl stay a little longer. She was supposed to retire earlier part of the year, and I got her to move it to July, and now December she says, that's it, I've got to go. So, you know, it's one of those things that you want her to stay longer, but all good things have to come to an end. You know, I've known Cheryl for a long time. You know, I first met her at the Monterey County Assessor's office there. And, you know, I heard a lot of good things about her there through the grapevine. She was very dedicated and very hardworking. So when we had a position that was open in the county, one of the people left to work in Santa Clara County, so I gave her a call. She was working at the Water District at the time. And I said, hey, we got an opening, go ahead and apply. And she did. And our assessor at the time, Arnie Fonz, hired her for the position. And when I became assessor, I promoted Cheryl to assistant assessor. And that was probably one of the best decisions that I made as assessor. She's been a tremendous asset to the office. I couldn't ask for a better assistant assessor. The way she works, I don't really have to tell her anything. She knows what to do, how to get the job done. She'll come in on weekends, nights, whatever it takes to get the job done. She's logged in probably annually 100 to 200 hours of overtime, sometimes going up to as far as 300 hours of overtime. But she doesn't get paid for overtime. That's time she donates back to the county. And I just want to thank her for all her hard work. One other thing is she's been also sought by other counties. I know Santa Clara County has been offering her positions in the past for management positions, and she's luckily turned them down. Even a assessor in the county that was retiring in Valley County said, hey, I'm going out midterm. Would you consider applying for the job? I'll go ahead and endorse you. And she thought about it, but she decided not to and decided to stay. So I also thank her for that as well. She's one of these types of people that is a rarity in life, and all of us at the assessor's office just want to thank her for all her hard work and her dedication, and just want to congratulate you, Cheryl. Thank you.
And the last presentation we have this morning is for Mr. Benanti. He's a public works employee, road maintenance supervisor for 31 years, and Supervisor Munzer has the honor of presenting that certificate of appreciation.
I'll hand it to you and you can hand it back.
That'll work.
Robert Benetti has been with the Public Works, as the chair said, for 31 years, and I appreciate all the people on the road crew. They're important to South County. They are working hard to try to maintain our roads, and they're doing a fantastic job for the resources that they have now, and I just appreciate them. So I know we'll get that to them. If you want to say anything?
Yeah, just say a couple words. It's actually not surprising that Robert's not here tonight. He was always one of the guys who actually liked to work with action as opposed to with words. He kind of didn't like the public spotlight, didn't like the light shining on him a little bit. He just liked to go out and get the job done. He had a called professionalism. He liked to get the job done exactly right the first time. We will miss that out in the roads crew. He had leadership and obviously 31 years of experience. He knew where to go when times were tough. If we had issues, he knew where to go first to take care of the residents in South County. So that kind of experience is certainly going to be missed, and we'll make sure that he gets this back
Thank you very much. Okay, now we'll move on to public comment, and this is an opportunity for the public to address the board on items not on today's agenda. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Do we have any speakers?
Yes, Marvin Jones.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Chairman, board members, last meeting I gave you a little booklet that describes the Agenda 21 a lot better than I've been doing in the last several months. But I just thought I would review parts of it with you. If you looked on page 4, if you remember the comment from the planner in the city of Seattle said if you have a program that's identified with the United Nations, the Agenda 21, says people might be a little suspect, so we should call it smart growth or growth management or something else. And so that was 15 years ago, and the name has evolved over the years to smart growth for a while, and now it seems to have settled down on sustainable development. Some of the topics in here, on page 5, had a comparison of we're endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, among these life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And they compare that with the Sustainable Development Agenda, where you've got the community rights are more important than individual rights. On page 8, it speaks of the free economy. Again, you are free to pursue whatever risk activity you want, and what rewards you get should be your own. And under sustainable development, we have the government making the decisions for us. Got government mandates, which they come down from Sacramento to San Benito County. So y'all are already familiar with government mandates, most of them being unfunded. We've got subsidies for types of industry that we think should be what you should be risking your money in. We've got bailouts of car companies, all sorts of activities. We've got Obamacare. You must buy this type of insurance. You can no longer buy an incandescent light bulb in the United States. I think it was 5 or 6 years ago that Congress decided that the incandescent light bulb is verboten. You cannot use that. You must use the compact fluorescents that have the mercury in them. They don't manufacture them in the United States. Then on page 15, you've got the regionalism, a new topic that we haven't discussed before. Techniques to make local governments, such as the Board of Supervisors, a little less relevant. We've got the Association of Monterey Bay Area Governments. They came out with their vision from the Monterey Bay Area back in 2011. If you read that, it tells you what you got to do, what you can't do. Some of these directives flow down to the Board of Supervisors. It's regionalism, and I'll close up with the regionalism also sequesters your land. The government, Bureau of Land Management, won't let you into the, the Clear Creek area. You can't even go on the county roads anymore. The government has closed that. That's their regionalism.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else would like to address the board this morning? Okay, we'll move on to department head announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I do have one announcement out of the administration office. I was able to attend CSAC annual meeting November 20th through the 22nd. I was able to attend a few meetings. I was able to go with Supervisor Barrios as well as Supervisor De La Cruz. A couple of the classes and meetings I attended was the Government Finance and Operating Policy Committee. There were a few things that they discussed, a year in review and a year ahead. But the one that I think was relevant for conversation today is mandates and the issues that are confronted by counties. We have one right across the street. I did talk to Gene Hurst with regards to that, and they are working on that for us and for the other counties within the state. So I wanted to present that to the board, as well as a few other courses I attended, the ACA and also budgeting with the county. So it was a good time. I was able to meet other individuals within the state and in our capacity. So that's all I have. I don't think we have any other department head announcements, so that's all I have.
We don't have any other department head announcements. All right, then we'll move on to board announcements. Okay, Supervisor Barrios.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank our CAO and Supervisor De La Cruz. We did attend the conference. This is the annual CSEC conference of the 119th year. And fortunately for us, it was in San Jose, so we did not have to spend a lot of money, but we were able to attend a lot of workshops and presentations that were very, very helpful to all of us. They addressed issues ranging from water to tourism that I was very interested in for our county. And I was really glad to see our CAO very committed. I know that he was there 3 days, I was there 3 days, and so was Supervisor De La Cruz. I left after the board meeting on the 19th and still was able to enjoy a lot of the workshops and presentations that they had. One of the highlights was our California Attorney General, who spoke, Kamala Harris. She spoke of her focus on our young people and primarily our first offenders, our first young people offenders. And to me, it gave me a lot of hope for the future of our youth. It was music to my ears to know that she has made that kind of commitment to young people in the state of California. And they're changing legislation to make sure that we guide them as we should have been and should be going forward. So I believe that for future generations, we have a lot of hope. And then also I attended the CSAC Board of Directors meeting. We have a new executive committee made up of representatives from several counties, and they vowed to present issues to the state of California, have a more aggressive approach, and carry on effectively the voices of all the counties in the state of California, not only to the state, but to Washington, D.C. We also approved unanimously a request to form a women's leadership forum, which I will become a member of in the very near future. The most important issue that was discussed was the long-term allocation framework that is being planned right now. The realignment allocation committee is trying to figure out how to give more monies to counties to be able to address the mandates that are coming from the state of California. So that is an ongoing realignment committee that is focusing on that, and we're hoping that San Benito County will be issued more, monetary help so that we can address the mandates that come down from the state. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Prime Minister. I also attended the conference, and I was there for actually Wednesday and Thursday. The ones that got my attention, and I'm happy that Supervisor Barrio and I agree that we'll share the responsibility depending on the subject matter. And mine were on healthy communities and the implementation of Obamacare to local communities. From the healthy communities, there is a program underway right now in County of San Diego that it's in this third year, and what they have done, they have worked with all the stakeholders and all the counties and all the departments to create a more healthy community. And what I mean is that the planning process, the development process becomes more friendly towards the community by having sidewalks, bicycle lanes, roads more friendly to those individuals that wish to exercise those options. And what I found out is that the community didn't buy into the concept once the facilities were built. It was actually the county employees themselves that started the process. And so when you have county employees start the process, start believing that we can create a healthy community, then the rest of the public can join and participate. And there were also economic benefits that was being generated from here. So that is something that hopefully that I might work with Ray starting next year or a couple of years from now on how we can grab some of those ideas and bring them into San Benito County, in which we can also become a healthy community. The other item that I participated or I attended the meetings were the impacts that the Obamacare will have to this community. it was amazing. In fact, Supervisor Barrios and Ray, I introduced them to one of the guest speakers, and she was very knowledgeable on all the rules and all the regulations and the web that is in human health and human services in order to qualify for either Medi-Cal, food stamps, Section 8, a certain type of Obama healthcare insurance. And yet, she was well informed, but not everyone knows all those mechanisms of the entire web. And she's right off the bat saying that we need to have a well-trained staff in order to help the community navigate through these new implementations, new state regulations and federal regulations that will be coming into this community. And some other counties were actually talking about how kind of struggle they were having, how some people, and Supervisor Barrios will agree with me, that how some people actually were waiting 6 months to a year just to get a response. And I was just laughing because I said, that's exactly what we encountered a couple years ago. So, bottom line, from the implementation of the Obamacare and the health, the local health aspects, it's a work in progress. Yes, we all acknowledge that the website wasn't up and running, and my understanding is that this morning is working well now, but it is still a work in process, and we need to retool our employees in order to help our communities. One other thing is, I also met some of the supervisors that were having problems with the courthouse too, the funding too, and it was just interesting just talking to them. And I swear I was talking to someone, an Anthony Patella, because he had the same position as chairman as, we don't want to open up that courtroom until we find them funding. So I'm actually proud of our chairman that he stood his ground on that, because we did find supervisors out there in the community too. And one final note, every year they have this raffle, and they give away little small tokens of gifts, and I actually won the grand prize, and the grand prize was or is a free membership to next year's conferences for CSAC. So it's worth $1,000. It's the enrollmentship to next year's CSAC's conferences. And that concludes my report, Mr. Chair. Well,
do you have to declare it on your taxes?
I'm actually in the way, and I'm actually going to go talk to the elections office or someone on that one. And I'm actually going to hand it over to our new chairperson and ask him, how do we handle this for next year?
I thought you were going to hand it to me so I could attend next year.
Well, I want it.
Okay.
No, I'm good.
Thank you very much, Supervisor De La Cruz. Supervisor Munzer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to just touch a little bit on what Dr. Jones said in public comment. I don't know if he was talking about when the roads to Clear Creek were closed, or if he was insinuating that the county roads to Clear Creek are closed now. But because I got a phone call from a member of the public who also heard the same thing, that the BLM was about to put up a gate and close the road, the county road, in the next couple of weeks, I made a call out to the BLM office. That is not true. The county roads are still open, still unmaintained, and my understanding is you need a four-wheel drive with high clearance to navigate the roads. So they are open, but they're not for your Toyotas and smaller cars right now. The other thing I would like to mention is that the ceremonial first 211 call was made prior to Lights On Parade. So I want to announce that 211, the phone service for Health and Human Service information, which the county is involved in, is now up and running. So I'm very proud of that.
Yeah. You certainly should be, Supervisor Munzer, for bringing that forward to, for the county and the benefit of everybody who needs services and the accessibility to information. For myself, I want to thank the fire department, and it's a consolidated fire department. It, contracted by the county to with the city of Hollister. We had a major fire in the city limits over the weekend, and they made, in my estimation, a terrific stop. They were quick on the scene, had plenty of equipment and personnel to deal with the emergency. Could very easily burn down that entire block, and two businesses were severely affected, and probably is a loss. And we certainly want to lend our support and prayers for their recovery. But fortunately, nobody got hurt, and everybody, the fire department worked what we thought it would do with a consolidated effort. And I want to thank all the agencies, all the firemen that were involved in that emergency. Supervisor Barrios and myself and the CEO Espinosa met with the veterans yesterday on a facilities meeting. This is something we've been trying to work with the Veterans Service Office and our local veteran groups to accommodate their need for adequate offices and facilities. And we've been really studying what we can do. And I think we've come up with, they came up with their own solution, basically, as far as how the offices are be aligned in the vets building, and that's where the veterans and the Veteran Services offices will remain. And we're trying to work with the UC Extension Service and move them to another facility. And I want to thank Ray for his work in that effort, and it seems like he has a solution pretty quickly, and I'm impressed. And you're doing a great job. I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, today, Lynn, as well as our Public Works Office, and Ron, our Ag Commissioner, are going to be meeting today to look at logistics at our South Side Road, to have the UC Extension move to that location. Our first conversation, it looks like she's willing to move, and it looks like it may work for them. So at this point, it's a tentative go, but we need to first verify logistics and everything else. So.
Okay, thank you. And with that, we'll move on to our consent agenda. I've been asked to pull number 3 by Supervisor Barrios, and I'm going to pull number 6. Would the public like to pull any of the items on our consent? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for the amended consent agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chair. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Supervisor Barrios.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And the resolution just needs to have a couple corrections, and I wish that I had the time to call directly to the office, but I ran out of time. So just want to make sure those changes are made, and it's just on the third whereas. There's some spelling error, and if we can just, I will meet with them and or give that information over to our clerk of the board. It's just, it says consists of a 3 longtime employees, so obviously that needs to be changed, and a migrant housing manage, and I'm assuming they mean manager. And so we just need to make those small corrections, and that was it, Mr. Chair.
Okay, great. Thank you. Supervisor De La Cruz.
Enrique or Jim, I have a question. So when the camp, when the migrant camp is closed, migrant center, when it's closed during the off time, their salaries are being paid?
Either through vacation or some type of time off, yes. This year, though, we do have the new migrant center manager. He will remain there at the facility. He will not be taken off during the holidays.
So he will be working, he or she
He'll
will
be working, the office will be closed, but he will be available. Yeah.
Is it necessary to have somebody full-time there during the off time?
He doesn't have, as I understand, the necessary, he just started about a month ago. So I don't think he has time in the books, and there's a lot of stuff that he still needs to get acclimated to.
Okay.
Any other questions by the board? Seeing none, any questions, comments by the public? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board.
I will make a motion, Mr. Chair, to adopt resolution number 2013-83, authorizing the closure of the San Benito County Migrant Center during the period of December 23rd through January 3rd, 2014.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. I pulled item 6. Let me flip to the item. And it looks like we're adding positions.
Good morning, Chair, members of the board, Georgia Cochran, Interim HR Director. What has happened here, our personnel rules state that the county cannot pay benefits to temporary employees. That includes retirement, health benefits, and a number of things such as that. However, PERS law requires that if the county hires a temporary employee who has contributions on file as a member of CalPERS, we must pay those contributions, as well as the employee must pay his or her share of those contributions. So in this particular case, the sheriff has some long-term absences he needs to fill in. He can't bring in trainees and train them. He has still staff who were laid off. He has other people who are trained, who are available, but they are members of CalPERS. So this becomes an expense in his budget. It's not an additional budget item. He may have less temporary hours per se if it costs a little more per hour. We will be looking at, this happens frequently as well in other departments, and you've seen those items come before you. For example, when a department has a need for someone, and we have, generally the most common is an employee who was previously laid off, is a member of CalPERS, we have no way to say, no, we won't pay that. So that's what that is for. We are looking at potentially some adjustments to that section of the ordinance that may come before you in the near future. For one, just because of the Affordable Health Care Act, we can no longer just make a blanket statement that says we will not pay health benefits to temporary employees. The retirement is kind of the same idea. And it would give those departments the flexibility to pick up people maybe who were trained in another county. So sometimes there is a savings in that respect.
Right, and I'm completely supportive of this, but I didn't see any net county cost anywhere in the AIT.
And we didn't, Human Resources did not see the item. I caught it yesterday, and so I hadn't had a chance to even talk with the Sheriff's Department. There's no addition to the budget. The Sheriff has some budget line item for temporary help, so it will come out of that. When that's exhausted, it's exhausted. These particular, I think it was 2 employees, may cost a little more, although I can't say if the efficiencies of having someone who is already trained might make up for the fact that they can do more in less hours. I don't know that per se. Generally, that's the concept, as was such in the assessor's office not too long ago. They were able to pick up a temporary employee like this that they had to provide no training to. So the additional cost out of that temporary budget was a savings essentially to the department in the end.
Mr. Chair?
So he's working everything within his budget. All right.
Correct. This is not an augmentation.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, that is correct, Mr. Chair. I called the sheriff yesterday as I went through the AIT, and it made it very clear that there were no general funds monies coming out in addition to what his budget has been approved. So it will be coming out of his existing budget. So.
And that's the case with these other items.
Okay, good. I just wanted that information clarified.
Mr. Chair, if you look on page 71 in your on your computer in the pamphlet, it actually highlights the estimated monthly cost for the benefit per each division will not exceed $485 a month through the remainder of the fiscal year. The employee will be required to pay the full employee portion, which is 6.5% under the new pension reform formula. So that gives you kind of an overview of what the actual costs are going to be.
Okay, fair enough. Any other questions, comments, Supervisor De La Cruz?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, in fact, I actually talked to Sheriff Thompson this morning, and I admit it, I was reading my agenda last night. It's just been a real tough last couple of weeks, and I said, this is not going to pass through me. I got to read the entire agenda. So I read it, and I called him like 10:30 last night, and he didn't return my call, so I texted him again, hey, call me in the morning. I understand we need to take a nap sometimes, and I do too. So him and I talked. We had a good meeting. Actually, over the phone, we talked at length. And bottom line is that I understand he needs these individuals because of the skill. However, from a cost perspective, that is the purpose why we hire temporary employees, to ensure that we don't incur these additional costs. And we have faced some in the past in some departments where a temporary employee has exceeded the allowable PERS retirement of 1,000 hours, and we have paid big bucks for those mistakes, and to the point where I said somebody's head needs to roll somebody's head had to roll for these two situations. It just didn't happen. Somehow we just don't learn the lesson. However, this is a little bit different, I agree, but we've got to develop a program or a policy in which it minimizes the cost to the taxpayers. To me, temporary help means we pay for that set of units performed, and that's it. There's no additional add-on benefits down the road. And this is what I'm looking at. We're enhancing that retirement down the road for these units performed at a temporary services level.
Well, we're looking right now, we're just gathering the data to assess our exposure for affordable health care. I think this county has minimal exposure there. Unfortunately, that's a federal law, as well as this is a CalPERS state law. Sometimes, in this case, what this saved was the expense of recruiting, the time of interviewing, finding folks, and then spending the time training them. And that's more often the case. They are pretty isolated, but it is a law that we can't get around, and the option is to bring someone without experience, train them. So it does become a difficult juggle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the board or questions? If not, any comments or questions from the public?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Marty Bishop from Hollister. I hope you all had a nice Thanksgiving. I had a very nice one, my favorite holiday. No gift giving, 4 days off. I wanted just to comment on Supervisor Dela Cruz's comment. Your comment is apropos that we should not forget about that, but this is exactly the opposite, in my opinion, because they're coming to you up front and saying this is what it's going to cost. What happened, I believe, I don't want to, be the judge and jury, but I believe my memory from the last time was basically the whole thing stayed hidden for 13 years, and then we woke up one morning with a huge bill. So this is just the opposite. I also want to say in defense, and I understand perfectly what you're saying about the fact that it's going to cost us more, but in defense of that, I want to say a few things. Number one is maybe not everything about the Affordable Health Care Act is going to make it affordable. Maybe sometimes it's going to be less affordable. This would be one case. Another case is the law, as you all know, and we're going to comply with the law because I know you are going to do that. So we're going to pay for this. But on the other side, when you have people with specialized skills especially, you may wind up saving money in the long run. For instance, I don't know what the two employees are supposed to be doing, but if they are jobs that require background checks and we already have a background check on these people, you save a substantial amount of money right up front. If they are jobs that require specialized licenses or authorities to have access to certain sensitive materials, you will save the money for that right up front. So you can't expect that you're going to go I know you know this. I'm saying this for the public's benefit. We can't expect to go out and find a sheriff who hasn't been a CalPERS. Okay, fully qualified sheriff, but he hasn't been a CalPERS. Not going to happen. So, and these may not be sheriffs, but they may have other specialized skills and authorities, and they pick those up by being a CalPERS, And the rules are the rules. If they were ever in CalPERS, they are now in CalPERS for the rest of their lives whenever we want to employ them, be they temporary or permanent. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public would like to speak on the item? If not, I'll bring it back to the board. And, you know, I think we certainly have to approve this. And, you know, reason I wanted to pull it is that there's a dark cloud hanging over us that we'll have to deal with first part of this coming year. And maybe the cloud is the shade of the building across the street. I don't know, but well, you know, it's all part of the dilemma that we're facing at the county level is with our public safety. But in the meantime, I'll make a motion to approve the county contributions for the 2 temporary employees in the sheriff's office.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. We'll move on to our regular agenda. CEO Espinoza.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you recall, we've been discussing taxes over the last few months, and per your board requested us to come back to you to discuss the TOT tax that we could potentially bring about to our county. So Janelle Cox, our management analyst, is here to present to you this particular item, item number 8 on our agenda. Janelle?
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. At your November 5th meeting, you requested additional information on the county's transient occupancy tax. The county's current transient occupancy tax rate is 8%, and it was established by ordinance back in 1986. The tax is collected by hoteliers on guests who occupy lodging establishments for less than 30 days, and it's in the unincorporated territory of the county. An increase to the TOT rate requires voter approval at a general election, the next one being November of 2014. The current TOT is considered a general tax, so it's imposed for general purposes, government purposes, and it can be increased by just a majority of the electorate, which is 50% plus 1. If your board wants to raise the revenue for a specific purpose, then that portion of the tax could be considered a special tax and would be subject to a 2/3 voter approval. To place the measure increasing the TOT on the November 2014 ballot, a resolution calling for the ballot measure election would need to be completed in May. We would prepare the ballot language and an amendment to your county code, and it would be followed by a public comment period. And then the final resolution would be submitted to the Register of Voters in August of 2014. The cost of adding a ballot measure on the November 2014 ballot really depends upon the number of items that you have on the ballot for that election, and if multiple cards are needed. So if just a single card is necessary, there aren't that many items on the agenda, it would just be the cost of the development of this particular item, $10,000 to $15,000 for the county. But if adding this item created an additional card, then you'd be looking at double your total costs for an election. The total cost for an election generally runs the county about $120,000, $150,000. So you'd be looking at double that if an additional card were necessary. But how much revenue would this additional 2% bring to the county, raising it from 8 to 10%? The annual TOT revenue averages about $84,000, so it's estimated that 2% would bring you about another $20,000 a year. This additional revenue would pay for the election cost if a single card were necessary, and then the ongoing revenue would be in addition to what you're currently receiving. And as the county grows, the additional short-term guest lodging, for example, you could be looking at additional revenues from TOT. That's really my presentation today, so I'd open it up for your discussion now.
Okay. Thank you, Janelle. Any questions for Ms. Cox from the board? Supervisor Munzer.
Yeah. You just, Janelle, you just used the 2% as an example, correct? We can increase it by any amount that's, not outrageous.
That's correct. You
Okay.
could. In fact, you look at Monterey County, and they're at 10.5%, and Santa Cruz County is at 11. Merced's at 10. So you're right. You could select the rate that you would feel most comfortable with.
Okay. And this may be for county council, if we wanted to just keep this going into the general fund, so that we just need a simple majority, can we do a verbal commitment to use it, say, for economic development or for tourism, such as the city did with their sales tax, where they said they were going to use it for public safety?
Well, I think the board can discuss how it wants to use those monies or how it intends to use those monies. I don't know about an actual commitment, but I think certainly that you can discuss it amongst yourselves and make a commitment or make a decision as to how those monies want to be used. You can also put an advisory on the advisory vote on the ballot as to how the public thinks the money should be used that are generated from the additional TOT tax.
Mr. Chair, that confuses me just a little bit, even though I know that we can verbally say it. What we cannot do then is actually put it on the ballot, that it's going to be used for a specific thing. Is that the difference?
Yes, if you put it on the ballot that the additional monies raised by the TOT will be used for this specific item, you've changed it from a general tax to a special tax, and now you've upped the passage required from 50% to 2/3.
Okay, so then this advisory group, then if we don't put it on the ballot specifically, so that it can pass with a simple majority, then they would commit to overseeing that that if we made a commitment to spend it a certain way, that's the way it would be
It's
spent?
advisory only. It ultimately doesn't tie the board's hands. It's just the board now has input from the public on how they would like to see the funds spent.
Okay,
That's all. It's purely advisory.
okay, thank you.
Okay. One of the things I had a question on, as far as the timing of the placing it on the ballot, if that's what is to be the direction, and the size of the ballot, and it seemed like it was a disproportional cost if we ended up going into a second sheet of, and to me it seems it should be split evenly amongst everything that's on the ballot.
Good morning, Chair.
Good morning.
Supervisors. Joe Paul Gonzalez. Today, as your registrar of voters, the problem with adding another item to the ballot is that oftentimes we are pushed to the limits to try to contain all of the items that all of the races in a general election or any election to one card. And when you can maintain the whole election in one card, you contain your cost, as efficiently as you possibly can. The election code dictates that the print has to be a certain font size. Titles have to be a certain font size. So we're very restricted as to how the card has to look like. So oftentimes we have no choice but to go to a second card or even possibly a third card, depending upon what how the election turns out. For example, the special election that elected Arnold Schwarzenegger governor, that one went to a three-card ballot. That was a very expensive election. So what happens is that you have an additional card that increases postage costs, printing costs, and remember, we also have a lot of mail ballot precincts where we have to put the postage on the mail ballot. So that increases that cost, not only sending the ballot to them, but that it, it gets sent back.
Right, but perhaps the point I'm trying to make is that cost evenly distributed with everything that's on the ballot, or just because the county would add this TOT tax rate initiative, whatever, would that be the sole burden on us to cover that additional cost?
The answer is, it is apportioned throughout all the different contests, depending upon, we call it the doctrine of voting opportunities, where, for example, the city of Hollister had an item on there. We would look at the number of voters that are eligible to vote in that race. We add up all those voters, and then we apportion out the cost in that way. So yes, it would be fairly distributed.
Okay, that answered my question. And the second thing, listening to colleagues on the board, is I have reservations myself as far as dedicating the revenue. If it's a general tax, personally, I understand the importance of creating revenue for economic development, and we should be investing in that as a county. It's a high priority for us right now, but to require that of future boards and future circumstances, I have a little bit of reservation of making that commitment. But that's just a thought that I'm kind of going through my mind.
Mr. Chair,
Supervisor De La Cruz.
I'd like to add some questions to the elections, Joe. My understanding is that the school district, and potentially, I know for a fact, the high school, they're moving forward, putting some items on the ballot for next year, correct?
That, we haven't received anything formally in the office, but I understand that,
There might be. So if today we move forward and today's item makes it a full sheet, and then in a week or two, the high school or even the school districts decide to put something on the election and it creates a second sheet, do they hold the burden on the second one, or is it all like the way you explained it earlier?
Right. It would be apportioned out according to the total cost to the voting opportunities of each race.
So it's not first come in, first gets position on that. That's not the way it works. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Supervisor Munzer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to kind of make a comment on your comment, is my understanding some counties and communities use the TOT tax exclusively for economic development. And my thought here is we use the increment amount that is gained, not to shift the whole amount over to economic development, but just the increment. And I'm also hoping that through the intergovernment committee that we can get the city of Hollister on board to also increase theirs, and then we can use the monies together to promote economic development, especially tourism in the city and the county.
Okay, thank you. This time I'll open it up for public comment. Anybody from the public would like to speak on this?
I'm Marty Richmond from Hollister. I certainly have no objection to raising the TOT tax, and I would hope the city of Hollister that you would make an arrangement so that we all get on the same number, whatever that number is. And I do not hold myself out to have any legal knowledge whatsoever, so I'm not stepping. I hope you realize, Mr. Counsel, I'm not stepping on your area, but my personal opinion is there'll be very little, if any, opposition to this ballot, And I don't want to, whatever little opposition there is, I don't want to get involved in some argument about whether or not we're violating anything. You may win the battle and lose the war about on committing where the money should go. If you win the tax, you can make the decision the day after the election. You can come in here and vote to take every penny of it and do whatever you want with it. I don't think the public needs to see that on the ballot in this particular case to be convinced about what you're going to do with it. If you individually want to campaign, go out and tell your constituents, this is what I would do with it if it was my money. I don't think anybody had any legal standing to say you can't do that. But I just hate to see it on the ballot. I think it's getting too close to a written promise. And again, I don't hold, I'm sure the council knows the legal limits. I just don't see any need to muddy the water with that particular issue. After all, as you said, I agree with you. On this rare occasion, I agree with you, Mr. Chairman, that the next council may change their mind, or they may have an emergency, or whatever, need the money for something else, and it's general money. And this is a welcome stranger tax, and this tax should go forward, because when you see what your taxes are going to be if you stay in San Jose, where the 49er stadium is going to be, you're going to fall out of your chair. So I look forward to supporting this, and I look forward to the board coming up with the new impact fees to support the library also, because that will also get a good reception, I believe. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else from public would like to speak on this item? If not, I'll bring it back to the board. Supervisor Barrios.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Joe Paul, I have another question. And I love the idea that Supervisor Munzer brought up of having the Hollister, through intergovernmental discuss and maybe want to jump on board. If we, let's say as an example, we wanted to raise this tax to 12%, City of Hollister is at 8 and 10. Would they be able to join us in this effort collectively, or would they have to do their own ballots in their, I don't know how that works. Could you explain that to me, please?
Well, they would have their own measure as a city, because they're a separate corporation, a subdivision of the state. So they would have the city TOT measure and advisory measure if they wish to have it, and the county would be separate. So there'd be separate line items, separate races.
Okay, we couldn't do it as a county in general with all of them by resolution agreeing to make it all 12% throughout the county. We couldn't do that.
They would have to do it individually.
Individually, okay. Very good, thank you.
But effectively, it would do what you would like it to do.
Right, okay.
I've never seen it happen, but it's possible that you could draft, we haven't even discussed this, it's possible you could draft a measure saying, if you wanted to have it only be successful, if it was also passed in the cities, you might have a measure saying, shall a tax of 10, 12% be imposed if similar measures are adopted in both of the cities, so it's like contingent.
Oh, got it, okay. All right, thank you for that explanation.
Supervisor Munzer.
How come we can't pass the sales tax for just the unincorporated, and then when we want to pass a TOT tax that'll include everybody, we can't do that either? I'm joking.
Next question.
But you're right, though. You're absolutely right.
But the thought crossed my mind where, you have the city residents voting on TOT tax out in the unincorporated areas, and we have to have separate measures. And I was following where you're getting at. It would be $20,000 for both of us rather than $20,000 each.
Exactly. Yeah. But it doesn't sound, this is all another state of California law.
Mr. Chair, I believe that we should just put the item on the ballot and hope that future board supervisors push to allocate resources and assist and whatever it is, economic development or some other fashion. I think you want to make it very clear, very simple, so we can get the public support on it.
Thank you. Other direction, or I think that's where we're at right now, is to provide direction for staff to move forward with. Supervisor?
Yeah, I would say I would concur with Supervisor De La Cruz. As I said earlier, I'd like to see staff and the intergovernment committee members work with the city of Hollister and possibly the city of San Juan.
Yeah, they sit at the table.
Yeah, and come up with a uniform amount, and that we can all go forward.
And Mr. Chair, I have one more comment. I think the way this will be successful is if the board, we do submit an argument, and that argument, you know, in favor of the ballot, and it could be very general, and say what it could provide, you know, additional funding for, and also to explain that this is not money that is coming out of the community's pocket. This is coming out of the pockets of visitors. And so if we can make that statement, I would really encourage us to move forward.
Okay, and I agree with that comment. Now, the timing, are we a shoot for a particular ballot? Is that part of the direction that we need to give this morning?
We'll shoot for the November 2014 ballot unless you have some other direction. It would give us time to submit the initial resolution in May to you.
And I think we need to do this. You know, I would assume that the cities would be on board 100%. If not, I think we need to do this anyway. And so hopefully our intergovernmental committee could work out the details, and staff can as well. But we have to be on the ballot on November 2014.
And the ballot language and the amendments to the ordinance and the county code will all come forward to your board for review.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, everybody has direction. Okay, very good. Thank you. We'll move on.
All right, Mr. Chair, yes, we're on item number 9 on our regular agenda, and this is also going to be a presentation given to us by Janelle Cox, our management analyst, and she's going to be giving to you a PowerPoint presentation this morning presenting the Parks and Recs Commission's recommended logo. So again, we have Janelle. Thank you, Janelle.
Okay, switching gears a bit. I'm thrilled to share this creative and descriptive logo representing Parks and Recreation in San Benito County and supporting a healthy community with you today to cap on to CSACs. The logo represents the Parks and Recreation themes that were identified by the Parks and Recreation Commission, its champions, and members of the community. And those include a healthy lifestyle, freedom to play in 262 days of sunshine a year in the broad open space here in our county, with community and partnerships, preserving the heritage, and building community prosperity. So as you look at this logo, it takes on individual, unique visions. I see the Golden Mountains and the bright sunshine and a community that's linked arm in arm. And there's this burst of energy. So imagine, if you will, the moment a ball hits a bat, a runner comes across the finish line, a soccer player kicks a ball, or a swimmer splashes in a pool. This logo is meant to represent the energy and the enthusiasm of people as they're out enjoying the outdoors, playing and recreating and having fun, as well as the beautiful and color landscape of our county. The logo, it's recognizable in, let's see, black and white, and we even have some shots of what it would look like on a doorway, on a t-shirt, a coffee mug, or even a logo on a vehicle. The symbolism of this unique logo, it represents Parks and Recreation in San Benito County today, and its creativity will carry the vision on for the future. So that was it. I just wanted to share the logo with you all. And
Thank you, Janelle. Any comments, Supervisor De La Cruz?
That's all right.
Supervisor Barrios.
Okay.
Oh.
He looked at me and called me Supervisor De La Cruz.
Then I looked at Margie and go, wait a minute. What's here?
Anyway, thank you, Mr. Chair. Janelle, I love it. It's, the burst of energy, as you called it. We have that same sun in our library logo, which is wonderful because that's like a burst of knowledge, a little different, but it's beautiful. I think the green, for a green environment and us going green, being resourceful, sunshine, all that fits in with San Benito County. So I love it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I think, this is part of the beginning where maybe we, the community, want to move forward, and that is have a healthy community. And somehow the idea and a theme has to start, and I think this is it. And I think we can work on it with Ray and all you guys in the Parks and Rec Commission. So, Mr. Chair, I support it.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Munzer, you have anything? I like the logo. It looks very good. It kind of, what I read into it, and I know our Parks and Rec program, really promotes, the diversity of our community and importantly, the inclusiveness. And so I think this kind of represents that, and I appreciate the work. Anybody from the public would like to comment on the logo?
Marty Richmond, please don't forget to trademark it. You know what happened with the other time, trademark it. And my recommendation, I'm not a legal beagle again, is trademark it with and without the wording so that you can't get someone just using inside without your permission. This way you can control where it shows up. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? If not, we'll bring it back to the board. And we have to accept it, or?
And we've received your comments, and it was an opportunity for the public to see it, so thank you very much. Our next step is going to be the development of a website and some marketing materials on our regional park and Parks and Rec in general, so we're hitting the streets. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, Mr. Chair, the website, the cost of the website, that's all included?
That was included in this grant opportunity, yes.
Okay.
And just one recommendation, don't forget to take advantage of our community vision group. Benito Link is on board, and that's a great opportunity to showcase a lot of San Benito County. So.
That's right. Thank you. It's a great source.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Cox. We'll go on to the next item.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This particular item was continued from our November 5th board meeting, and today we'll be asking your board to adopt CEQA findings, approve and adopt the negative deck, and accept introduction, waiving further reading of the ordinance, and continue this item for our December 17th meeting for adoption. Today we have our interim planning director, Byron Turner, here to present this info with you and add additional comments.
Yeah, this was presented to you before, and we had to do this again in order to accommodate some noticing. So we're back. As the CAO said, if you have any questions about this ordinance and about the changes to groundwater extraction, I can answer those questions. Otherwise, it's recommended that you review the initial study and proposed negative declaration and the proposed ordinance revisions, that you read the title of the ordinance for the record, which is an ordinance amending Chapter 15.05 Water of Title 15 of the San Benito County Code relating to groundwater aquifer protections. And 3, make a motion to A, adopt the CEQA findings set forth in Exhibit 2, B, approve and adopt the negative declaration, and C, accept introduction, waive further reading of the ordinance, and continue this item to the December 17th, 2013 at 9 a.m. for adoption.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Turner. Any questions, comments from the board? Any questions, comments from the public? If not, I'll bring it back to the board for a motion.
I'll move to approve per staff recommendation.
That's okay.
You want to read the title? Or Byron read it?
All right.
That's fine.
All right, thank you.
And second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Hearing none. And we'll move on to our last item.
Yes, this is our last item. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we're on item 11 for our regular agenda. This particular item, again, is a continuance, an ongoing update to your board with our general plan, and there has been some updates. So we have Byron Turner here again to talk.
Very brief this morning. We're still negotiating the contract and reviewing the contract. There was a little hiccup with the holidays, causing us to have to bump it a couple weeks, but we do expect to be here on the 17th with the consultant's contract for your review, and we are still in contact with the consultant in order to, plan our mapping our plan of action ahead of time so we can hit the ground running if we get approval.
I appreciate getting these updates. Even though that's all we're hearing, I know that we're moving forward, and there's activity, and that's what this presentation. So thank you, Byron. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Supervisor.
So I guess I want to put you on the spot. So we will have the contract before us.
The county is reviewing it unless there are some significant changes, which I do not anticipate. I committed to having it on the 17th, yes.
Okay, so I want to see it on the 17th, and I'll also put you on the spot again that in a meeting that you stated that you hope to have this whole process done in 90 days.
The contract process.
I thought you were
Not the general plan.
Not the general plan. I thought you were.
No, yeah. According to the contract, I want to say it was close to a year. It was more like, but it was not a complete year. The contract that we were dealing with, the time
Okay.
frame.
Well, then, because I'm hearing from the public that, oh my gosh, it's going to take us another 2 years to get this done, and I don't want to see this going on for another 2 years. I want to get this done.
The schedule that we
ASAP.
are working out with the consultant is definitely less than 2 years.
Thank you.
Yeah, Byron, and I take it with a grain of salt. I was talking about the assessor's office earlier today about them being understaffed. When I look at you, you look like a man without any arms because you're severely understaffed down there as well, and it's hard to get any work done when you under those circumstances. And I know you've heard us on what a high priority this is. And, I certainly hope that you keep this ball moving, have it on the 17th. Let's get the momentum back again to us and to the Planning Commission, and we got to get this done. That's holding up a lot of things in this community. People would be surprised how important the effort this whole plan is. So. Thank you for the update. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, we'll go to closed session. County Council.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Board of Supervisors will now adjourn into closed session to discuss agenda items number 12, 13, and 14 on today's agenda. Agenda item number 12 is a closed session to confer with its labor negotiators. The agency designated representatives are Dania Torres Wong, Allison Hauk, Ray Espinoza, Joe Paul Gonzalez, Melinda Casillas, Mark Gregerson, and Georgia Cochran. The employee organizations involved are the Institutions Association, Law Enforcement Management, the Management Employees Group, SEIU Local 521, the General Unit Employees, SEIU United Long-Term Care Workers Local 6434. The authority to meet is found in California Code Section 54957.6. Agenda item number 13 is to confer with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation and the initiation of litigation pursuant to subdivision D4 of section 54956.9 in one case. And finally, agenda item number 14 is to confer with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation and the significant exposure to litigation pursuant to government code section 54956.9 D4 also in one case. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, County Council. Would any of the public would like to comment on any items that before we adjourn to closed session? Seeing none, we'll adjourn to closed session.
Denise, on that resolution, did you catch where it was?